Making films can be a tricky business, and while some are loved, some are very much not, even by the people who made them. And directors are very precious about what they make. I'm Robin, and this is my countdown of the top 5 movies so hated by their own directors, they disowned them. In at number 5, it's David Fincher with Alien 3. The third installment of the Alien franchise is nowhere near as beloved as Alien or Aliens. But according to Fincher, a lot of people hated Alien 3, but no one hated it more than he did. I'm not so sure about that, David. A lot of people really hate it. When Fincher was approached to replace Vincent Ward, the first director of Alien 3 in 1991, $7 million of the budget had already been spent. The script wasn't complete, and it was subject to numerous rewrites demanded by the studio. Fincher himself wrote a lot of scenes during filming. There were also reports of Fincher micromanaging the entire production and apparently driving the studio mad with his broken promises. Regardless of the rumours, Fincher officially walked off the project when it went into post-production, and he's since disowned it. In 2003, the studio released director's cuts of all 4 Alien films. That's right, I'm ignoring the AVP films and Prometheus. The only director who didn't agree to revisit his film was Fincher. So the special edition and the bootleg workprint cuts are the closest we can get to Fincher's planned version, but still not the real thing. Luckily for him, and for us I guess, it didn't hurt his career too much and he made 7 2 years later, and to date he's been nominated for 2 Oscars. Number 4. Alfred Hitchcock, Rope. Hitchcock famously referred to his 1948 film Rope as an experiment that didn't work out. The film only has 10 shots, and some of them last for 10 whole minutes. Adapted from a play of the same name, Hitchcock was experimenting with finding the film equivalent of a play and tried to tell the story in real time using really long shots to do this. The film lasts a full 80 minutes, but a study by the Scientific American discovered that the action actually covers just over 100 minutes, so he almost nailed it. The takes themselves were so long and complex that the cast and crew made every effort to not interrupt shots. During one take, a cameraman's foot was crushed by the heavy camera. He was just gagged and taken silently off set so filming could continue. Hitchcock disowned the film for breaking his normal filmmaking technique. He bought back all the film rights and kept them until his death, when he left them as part of his legacy to his daughter. She released it in 1984. Thing is, it's genuinely good. Such a shame Hitchcock hid it from the world for so long. Number 3. Stanley Kubrick, Fear and Desire. Stanley Kubrick is a legend, and he's probably my favourite director. He's definitely the director who got me into films. But I'm sorry that even Lord Kubrick makes mistakes sometimes. To be fair to him, it is his first ever feature film, Fear and Desire, that makes it onto this list. Released in 1953, Kubrick originally planned to shoot the movie without sound for just $13,000. But after the actors dubbed their lines in the studio and after many reshoots that he insisted upon, the budget tripled to $40,000. He didn't even have enough actors and had to double up parts. Simply put, Kubrick hated Fear and Desire so much he described it as being like a child's drawing on a fridge. He disowned the film shortly after it was released, and he even tried to make sure that no one ever saw it by refusing to re-release the prints. Unfortunately for Stan, Kodak, who processed the film, had a policy of duplicating the prints for the archives at the time, and so one copy did survive. It's kept at the Kodak Archives in New York. The Kubrick estate does allow viewings of the film, provided that the audience is an individual, no groups allowed, and that the film never leaves the building. He really must have hated it, and props to him for suppressing his first film. But it wasn't the only one of his films that Kubrick wasn't that big a fan of. Kubrick withdrew A Clockwork Orange from distribution in the UK for 27 years because his family received death threats, and the film was blamed for a rise in gang culture. It wasn't available until after his death. Number 2. David Lynch, Dune. Now, I love Dune, but David Lynch is not the first person you'd think of to make a special effects-heavy blockbuster. Originally a best-selling book by Frank Herbert, this was the 3rd failed attempt to turn the incredibly popular sci-fi saga about space spice into a movie. The film had already passed through the hands of Alejandro Jodorowsky and Ridley Scott before it landed in Lynch's lap. By 1981, Lynch was the maestro of the wonderfully weird and intimate after being nominated for Best Director for The Elephant Man, and he didn't fancy doing a big studio movie. It took some heavy pestering from producers Dino and Rafaela de Laurentiis to get him to do it. But it didn't do too well. Lynch originally created a 3-hour marathon film, but Universal didn't like it at all. They forced Lynch to make a 2.25-hour version to ensure that they could get as many screenings as possible in a day to make more money. So, to get the running time down, every actor lost 2 scenes, and Lynch had to film new scenes and simplify narration. Lynch told reporters in 2006 that he never had final cut control over Dune, and he gave up on the movie before shooting had even finished. He has described his time on Dune as a slow, dying death. He's repeatedly turned down offers to release a director's cut because revisiting the film would be too painful for him. There is a 3-hour TV cut available, which is slightly closer to Lynch's original version, but he dislikes it so much he took his name off it. And you know what's worse? Lynch turned down Return of the Jedi to make Dune. Oh, mate. Number 1. David O. Russell, Accidental Love. Well, back in 2008, before the mega success of Silver Linings Playbook or American Hustle, David O. Russell was plagued by a series of horrific setbacks during the making of his quirky rom-com, Nailed. It's about a roller skating waitress who gets shot in the head with a nail gun and goes to Washington to complain that her health insurance doesn't cover her expenses. Romantic/political hilarity ensues. In typical Russell style, the film has a stellar cast including Jessica Biel and Jake Gyllenhaal, but the production was wrought with financial difficulties. In fact, filming had to be stopped on 14 separate occasions after the producers failed to pay the cast and crew on time. They completely ran out of money just 2 days before the end of production. But they hadn't filmed the nail gun scene. You know, the scene the whole plot is based on. Russell knew there was no way to actually finish the project, so he abandoned it in 2010. But even after the producers and the director had jumped ship, the film's financiers still tried to cut the film together themselves to get back some of their initial investment. In 2011, a version of Nailed was released as Accidental Love. David O. Russell is credited as Stephen Green. It's bad. It's very bad. And everyone hated it. But luckily for Russell, he had a few other okay films here and there to make everyone forget about the nail-in-the-head nightmare of Accidental Love. So those are 5 famous directors who disowned their movies. Do you think they should have disowned them, or are they just being a little too perfectionist? Please let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a like and share it, and click right here to watch every Star Wars Easter egg. All of them! Well, for the original trilogy at least. I mean, there were too many for one video in all 7 films. Anyway, please click, watch it, enjoy it, and see you next time.